It was December, the season of celebration, hope, and endless possibilities. The air was alive with the spirit of Christmas, and amidst the festive booze, an online flyer began making waves on social media, boldly designed with glittering graphics and a touch of holiday magic. The flyer announced an extraordinary event, a Christmas talent hunt and audition like no other. The flyer promised the ultimate prize, a starring role in a blockbuster movie, and a jaw-dropping 5 million naira cash reward for the best talent. The venue, a prestigious hall in the heart of Lagos, glittering with anticipation. To add to the allures, participants were encouraged to show up in their best festive attire, ready to dazzle the judges and leave a lasting impression. The entry fee was just 2,000 naira, a small price to pay for what could be a life-changing opportunity. Word spread like wildfire across social media platforms, fueled by glowing recommendations from friends and family. This is a chance of a lifetime, people exclaimed, tagging loved ones and urging them to seize the opportunity. The Bulls wasn't just about the prize, it was about dreams coming alive. Aspiring actors, singers, and dancers from every corner of the city saw these as their golden tickets to fame. The talent hunt quickly became the talk of the town, igniting a wave of excitement and anticipation as December unfolded in all its festive glory. By 8 a.m., the hall was packed with people, young men and women dressed in their Christmas themed outfits, held proms and script, practicing their lines. Excitement was palpable as participants exchanged hopes of being chosen and becoming stars. Among them was Anita, a 23 years old aspiring actress from Benin City. She had saved up from her part-time job as a waitress to pay for her transportation and audition fee. This is my big break, she murmured to herself. She struck up a conversation with Chuka, an old friend from her previous neighborhood. They were thrilled to see each other again after 4 years of being apart. Chuka, a confident and talented singer in his late 20s, had always been passionate about his craft. Their connection was effortless, and they quickly fell back into the rhythm of their friendship. Wow, it's amazing to see you are still chasing your dream as a singer, Anita remarked with genuine admiration. Of course I am, Chuka replied. It's Christmas. Big brands are always scouting for fresh talent during festive period. I might be lucky this time around. They both gave a big smile. The hall was alive with activity as the audition began. Participants were called up one by one to showcase their talent. Some sang, others acted out of dramatic monologues, while a few performed dance routine that drew applause from the crowd. Anita sat nervously on her chair, clutching the number pinned to her chest. She whispered to Chuka, who sat beside her. I hope I don't forget my lines, she said, biting her lips. You've got this, Chuka reassured her. The process was chaotic but thrilling. The organizers, including Mr. Kelvin, moved around with clipboards, marking names and whispering amongst themselves. After several hours, Mr. Kelvin walked onto the stage with a microphone. Silent, everyone! We've been impressed with what we've seen so far, but this is just the beginning. For those who made it through, there is another round ahead. If your number is called, please proceed to the next hall. If not, thank you for participating and better luck next time. Tension filled the room as numbers were called. Anita's heart pounded until she heard hers. Yes, she whispered, rising up from her seat. She glanced at Chuka, who was also called up, and gave her a thumbs up. A handful of participants were left behind, looking dejected. The selected group were directed to a second hall, which was more secluded. Anita noticed the dim lighting and heavy curtains that blocked out natural light but thought nothing of it. The hall was filled with excited chatter. The participants seemed thrilled to have made it this far, their confidence boosted by the recognition. Chuka, however, couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that crept over him. He scanned the room and noticed something peculiar. Two large men in suits stood by the door, their arms crossed. They looked more like bouncers than audition staff. Around the room, a few other men moved discreetly, whispering into earpieces. Something is not right, Chuka muttered to himself. Anita was too focused on the organizer at the front of the room to notice Chika's growing unease. Mr. Calvin stood on the small stage again, addressing the group with a wide smile. Congratulations to you all who have made it this far, he said. The next stage will determine the final winners. Prepare to show us your absolute best. Remember, this is your moment to shine. The crowd clapped and cheered, but Chuka barely joined in. His eyes darted around the room, noticing how the men in suit occasionally exchanged glances. His stomach churned. He leaned closer to Anita. Something feels off here, he whispered. What do you mean? She replied, not taking her eyes off Mr. Kelvin. Look around, Chuka insisted. The men at the door, the way they are watching us, this doesn't feel right. Anita sighed. You are overthinking it, Chuka. Maybe they are just here for security. Focus on what the organizer is saying. Chuka sat back, but his discomfort only grew. The energy in the room felt strange, too eager, too blind. Most of the participants were caught up in the excitement of being chosen, oblivious to their environment. As Mr. Kelvin continued speaking, Chuka's instinct screamed at him. Something was very wrong, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that they had walked into a trap. Chuka's hands trembled as he walked towards the exit door, forcing himself to remain calm. The two bouncers blocking the door glanced at him suspiciously as he approached. Excuse me, please, he said, his voice steady despite the fear. Where is the restroom? The larger of the two men pointed down a hallway. The last door on your right, he grunted. Chuka nodded, pretending to walk casually. As soon as he was out of their sight, he quickened his pace. His heart pounded loudly as he spotted another hall on the left through a narrow opening. He saw a group of men talking in hushed tones. Besides them were several young people sitting silently, their face pale with fear. Chuka dared not to linger. He thought to himself, these were the dejected people. He kept walking fast, his stride faster than before. When he reached the gate, his heart sank. It was locked, and there was no guard in sight. Panic surged through him, but he knew he had to think fast. He scanned the area, spotted a low section of the fence, and made a run for it. With all his strength, he climbed over the fence and dropped to the other side, scraping his arms in the process. Without looking back, Chuka ran as fast as his feet could carry him, his mind racing as what to do next. Immediately, his mind told him the police station. Chuka ran and ran to make sure he leaves that vicinity. After a while, he stopped at a place where he could see a number of people. He asked questions on how to get to the nearest police station. He was directed to the place, and he continued running, gasping for breath. He stormed into a police station and shouted, "Please, you have to help me. There is something terrible happening." Back at the hall, Anita was growing uneasy. She glanced around, hoping to see Chuka, but he was nowhere to be found. Her chest tightened. Something wasn't right, she said to herself. Suddenly, the lights went off and the hall completely darkened. Screams erupted as people fumbled with their phones, turning on flashlights to see. Anita's heart raced as she called out Chuka. "Chuka, where are you?" But there was no response. Before anyone could fully grasp what was happening, a dim light flickered from an open door at the back of the hall. 10 masked men stormed in, their heavy boots echoing against the floor. The room descended into chaos as the men began grabbing women, dragging them out of the hall. Anita screamed as one of them reached for her. The remaining men tied up male participants, ignoring their cries and plea for mercy. Those who shouted too loudly were beaten mercilessly with electric wire by the bouncers. Blood and tears flowed freely. The air was thick with tension and despair. Anita and 5 other girls were left in a hall, trembling and holding one another as they watched the marksmen inject and drag some women into a separate room. The remaining women were frozen in fear, crying, each one of them praying silently for a miracle. Anita whispered a desperate prayer under her breath, tears streaming down her face. God, please save us, please. Suddenly, one of the masked men approached the other ladies with his needles glittering in the dim lights. Anita recoiled in horror as a girl next to her was injected with a strange substance, her body going limp. She shouted, her eyes tightening, waiting for her turn. But before the man could get to hers, a loud commotion erupted outside. The sound of siren blared in the distance, growing louder and louder. The bouncers and marksmen exchanged worried glances. Realizing their time was up, one of them shouted, "Pack everything and move now!" His voice was urgent. The remaining victims were shoved roughly into a corner as the men scrabbled to destroy evidences. But it was too late. Police officers burst into the hall, gun draws, shouting orders. Some men tried to flee, but several were apprehended on the spot. Anita watched in shock as the officers stormed the building, breaking into other rooms and rescuing more victims. A number of people were freed, though their face bore the trauma of what they had endured. Chuka stood outside the hall, his eyes scanning the crowds of survivors. When he saw Anita step out, his face pale but alive, relieved washed over him. He ran to her, tears in his eyes. "Anita," he called. She turned, and when she saw him, she collapsed on her knees, sobbing. She raised her hands to the sky. "Thank you, God. Thank you for saving me." Chuka knelt beside her, his voice breaking. "Thank you, God. I am so glad you are okay, Anita. I thought I had lost you." They gave themselves a tight hug. The other survivors went on their knees, offering prayers of gratitude and embracing one another. Many of them thanked Chuka for his bravery in alerting the police. "You saved us," one of the boys said, his voice trembling. "We would have died if it weren't for you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much." The police revealed that the organizers were part of a notorious human trafficking and ritualist ring. Though some of the criminals escaped, several were caught and would face justice. Anita and the other survivors were taken to the station to give their statement. And as they left the station, Anita turned to Chuka. "You are my hero," she said, her voice weak. Tears from her cheek fell. "I will never forget what you did for me, what you did for us." Chuka smiled. "It's only God. Thank God you survived. I am so pained for those who didn't make it alive." This is a call to many, warning to be cautious about too good to be true opportunities, and also to be vigilant and observant in anywhere you find yourselves. In such, any suspicious or strange moves should be reported to the right authorities to save the lives of innocent people. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you took something from this story. Please do also like and share across. See you guys in my next video. Until then, stay splendid.